Seems to be working.
Right.
Well, groovy. Morgan, my friend, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Wait, that's not how we start.
No. Go ahead. Do your thing.
Hello, my name is Nicholas. This is the Living NLP podcast, and this is my cohort.
Morgan Lane Bennett. What's up, y'all? We are here to just talk all things NLP, how we live it, the ways that we do. We get together and we share a anecdote from our work and our life and a quote from something interesting and philosophical and or NLP-ishnessical. And we have a shorty today, so we're just going to jump right into it. So, so my anecdote will be a shorter version of what I mentioned to you before last time we talked, which was I have a client who had significant work to do around a certain topic that all sort of went back to a catalyzing event. And I had given him the homework he accepted. That was, I'm going to write about it. I'm being extremely vague, but I'm going to write about it and sort of give the part of me that experienced that event a voice of some kind.
Yeah. Well, it's not like he's the only person who's ever gone through the thing you're describing. It's pretty common.
But that, like, he would always ignore it. He would never think about it. It was running his life. Running away from the event was running his life. And then eventually he lost the I and it started, no, he added an I, started ruining his life when it became who he was. When running became his I, he started ruining his life. There it is. So
that was pretty clever right there.
The event needs to be addressed. All roads lead to this thing. And you need to address it, was basically what it kept coming down to. So with some resistance, he's like, okay, I'm going to address it. I'm going to write down whatever I need to write down. Or, that I'm being vague. I'm going to write the thing down. Then I see him the next week, or he even texts me the next day. He's like, I wrote the thing and I feel better. I just feel better. And I slept great. And, I don't even think I need to, like, he's going to send it to some people. He's like, I don't even think I need to send it because I get it. I feel the results. I don't think there'd be a point. And so I'm like, yeah, man, that's great. Cool. I see him the next week and I'm like, so how you doing? Oh, I slept great this whole week. It's amazing. I did it. It's like, okay, cool. Well, let's keep moving forward. And then there was some recalcitrance and some sort of backsliding and stuff. And I was like, okay, there was a lot of teeth pulling with stuff. And I would always go back to, yeah, but you had the results from writing about that event. You got the results of sleeping better, which is, again, out of his conscious mind. That's like, no, like, you can't make yourself do that. Right. That's something that is done for you by you when you have done a thing.
It's more of a measurement of how well the work you're doing is working.
Unconsciously. Exactly. So cut to, we finally get to the end and I'm telling him, look, man, there's some ways that you did not show up for this whole thing that we did, for the whole package. And, it really started off well and you could have done so much better, but I feel like you didn't do a lot of the things you say you're going to do. You didn't show up, blah, blah, blah. He goes, oh, I have a confession. I go, what's that? He goes, I never wrote the thing. I lied to you about it. And first of all, you're like, okay, you paid me to lie to me. And then I go, well, what about the sleeping better? He goes, oh no, that happened for real. And I was like, so you're telling me that you lied to me and you got results for like a week. You actually got unconscious results by lying to me about what I asked you to do. And I was like, well, imagine. He's like, yeah. I go, well, imagine what you would have gotten if you'd actually done it. If you'd actually done the thing that you said you would do. And it just sort of blew my mind. Like, I mean, it's not the first person to not do something or lie to me or whatever, but it's the first time that someone like got a result by lying about doing the thing that they said that I was like, wow, the power of the unconscious mind to go, yeah, that probably should have done this. And well, I guess technically he's really good at lying to himself and me so that he got some results from lying about doing the thing. Unconscious results, like sleeping better, which that is what blew me away. Just the power of the unconscious mind to sabotage itself, and at the same time give itself results based on an imaginary, like again, imagination, whatever. But did he hypnotize himself into believing that his lie was true, which is probably all of it, enough to make his unconscious mind give him some result that was based on the lie he was telling me, that eventually fell apart because he wasn't doing the rest of his work.
Right.
So anyways, that was a very interesting moment as a coach to learn. And I didn't like, oh, you lied to me, you dumb piece of shit. Because of course, like, oh, I kind of knew anyways, because he was totally dropped the ball on so many other things. But the most amazing thing was that, utilize the lie. Oh yeah, no, yeah, of course, yeah. But you got the results, yeah. Boom. Then the hook's in there, because then it's like, well, now you see the power of the work. Imagine what could happen if you really did it.
Yeah.
That was my insight.
Honesty is one of the core foundations of a coaching or therapeutic relationship. If you don't have that, your coach, it's like going to a doctor and him saying, does this hurt? And you being like, no, it doesn't hurt, but it does. Or what?
Or when you pay him for medicine,
right,
and you don't take it.
Right. Yeah.
And you kind of placebo yourself into a little bit of something, and you go, oh no, I took it, doc. But meanwhile, your hair's falling out.
And to be clear, there was a time in my life when I was so neurotic and fucked up and narcissistic that I paid for coaches to lie to.
Right.
And I've done it before. I just learned through that experience, and also through the experience of figuring out how to handle if a client isn't being honest with you, but also how to get it so they don't do that anymore. Because I can't tell. Well, obviously, I suppose there could be people lying to me and I don't know it, but I don't think so, given the level of truth telling that my clients are sharing with me now.
He was not showing up with much integrity at all for most of it, which then, of course, I was like, I have to call him on it. But then he's like, his trigger is, you're not allowed to criticize me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, I'm going to show up shitty.
Oh, he picked the wrong coach.
And you're not but actually, for like stepping back some more, it was a very big learning experience for me to then deal with this highly sensitive person,
totally
liar, who really is a scared little boy. So I just ignored the middle-aged millionaire, and I just talked to a scared 9-year-old.
Exactly.
And for me, that was the lesson of like, okay, well, there's no point. Like,
exactly. In
me going, dude, what the fuck? You know, why are you wasting your money? Because he already knows all that. So part of why you're not allowed, I wasn't allowed to criticize him because he's always doing it to himself. So he's highly. So it's a real interesting dance of like finding how to work with a highly sensitive saboteur, self-saboteur.
Well, what's really interesting is working with people for whom compulsive lying is one of their presenting problems. Like they're aware that they do it, and then you're like, well, I know that you're lying to me about stuff. Like I know that some of the things you shared in the stories that you tell are probably things you've made up. So how do you navigate as a coach? How do you navigate? Like, I don't even know which metaphors to grab onto, because which ones do they just make it up? It's an interesting thing to navigate. It's hard.
It was a learning experience for me of like patience and growth on a level of like, oh boy. And sympathy and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, man. I mean, I hear you. Boy, to spend money. He just wanted me to be another notch on his belt of, even this guy can't help me. But the fact of the matter is, you were running in another direction the whole time.
Right.
So, but you did get results. And even some of the ones that didn't, you got some that did stick around, and you were fighting the whole time. So just kind of imagine what would happen if you weren't, if you just went with the guy who's proven himself to not be one who's going to attack you and make you feel bad. So it was a good learning experience for both of us.
Yeah, it sounds like you handled it well. And most of my sharing there was just to talk about how hard of a thing it is to handle when you have a client that's being that way. And I think, it's something you're going to encounter if you're out doing this work.
All right, get it. What do you got?
So you got to stop me if I told this story. I don't think I have, because I think it happened more recently than the last
20
show.
minutes.
Okay. So I was working with a client who has been making a lot of really good progress in other areas. And for, geez, like probably over a year, I would say since before the pandemic, or at least right after it started, he has been semi regularly complaining that he needs to get his living space cleaned and organized, that he's accumulated a lot of stuff, not quite hoarding levels, but he's got a lot of stuff in a small space. And he is the kind of person who really likes to put things together.
Mhm.
Like there's this feeling of like everything is where it's supposed to be, and he really loves that, and he does it everywhere but where he lives. So I heard a long time ago this kind of Jungian interpretation of, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, Feng Shui, right? Yeah, the
Yeah, I
move your
think it's Feng,
move
but who knows?
what yeah, move your furniture around and change your destiny kind of thing. So one interpretation of why this might work. That was good, right? Short.
Sure. Yes. Yes. Sure.
So one unconscious hypnosis compatible interpretation for why that might work is the idea that your living space is a reflection of your unconscious mind, or your unconscious mind projects itself onto your living space. The example I always use to describe this is when people are robbed, someone breaks into their house and burglarizes it. The way the cliche response that people say afterwards is they say, I feel like I've been violated. I have been violated. Why? Because we're territorial animals. And when you go, this is my space, and someone comes into your space, it feels like they're inside of you in a weird sense. So the idea is that everything in your living space, it could be a reflection of what's going on in your unconscious. So your closet full of disorganized crap that you threw in there and you don't look at it, that is symbolic. It represents something in your mind, and it represented something to this guy that he does this everywhere. He's so good at like making everything look put together and intentional everywhere but where he lives.
Right.
So he's brought this up over and over again, and I've gone, all right, so are you ready to fix it? And he'd be like, yeah, I'll take a look at it this week. And then something else comes up and he doesn't do it. Finally, this week, I was really holding his feet to the fire on this one because it happened so many times. He said it so many times. So I told him this metaphor. I said, imagine like all of your stuff. Imagine you had to carry all of your stuff with you across the country. And like, what stuff do you really want to be carrying with you? How much stuff, when you look around your space, is stuff that would be weighing you down? And then it like popped into my head right then. I was like, so really, this isn't about organizing your space. This is about losing weight. This is about a weight loss journey. And as soon as I said that, dude, I've tried so many different angles to get through to him. As soon as I said that, he was like, oh, fuck. And it was like, for some reason, so he's been really good on his health for most of the year. He's been exercising, I mean, sporadic up and down, but for the most part, he's been really focused and he's made really good progress in that area. And so as soon as I said, all this stuff that you have is weighing you down, and it's time to shed those extra useless pounds. And I just kept leaning into it until he was like, okay. And so then the next week we came back and he's like, I threw my Christmas tree out. His Christmas tree was still in there. So he's like, I threw my Christmas tree out and I organized this.
From what year? Oh my God. Wow.
And he's like, I organized my living room and it's totally feeling different. And all these other things in my life started to shift. So I'm like, dude, I know of no better way to start unblocking your stuckness when you're trying to do inner work and it's not working. look outside, do something to change your space, to change your environment, take an action externally, and
Yeah.
it will often unblock whatever's going on inside. And it totally worked. Anyway, I
Amazing.
just love that weight loss
Well, yeah, it's
moment.
great, especially because it was something he was already good at doing.
Exactly.
And then once he went, oh, that's just that. And you go, oh,
Yeah.
that Christmas tree I've been thinking about. Imagine how much mental effort it takes to ignore a Christmas tree in your living room in May.
That's exactly what I've been talking to him about.
Imagine
Is
how often you have to
Yeah.
think about not thinking about it.
Yep.
And how much energy it takes, all the boxes and the this and the that, all the shit stuff, that, which is for me, it's like, I mean, it goes on. Make your bed, wake up, make your bed, do the thing, keep yourself, keep it tight. Doesn't have to be super crazy OCD about it, but
when you get acclimated to chaos, you don't remember how much more energy you could have if it wasn't like that.
Exactly. All right. Well, that was a good one. So now we move on to our quote section.
Let's do it.
Today.
Do it.
A book you are well familiar with.
Amen.
Okay.
Yes.
Pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the part. The need for power is a reflection of man's insecurity and a sign of the inadequacy of his ego. While power and wealth can add to the pleasure of life, they do so only when they are not the goals of life, which is a pretty simple way of, I mean, this has been said 1,000 different ways before, but they're like, yeah, power and wealth, when they're not the goals of life, can add to pleasure. But because his whole point is pleasure is the point of life and not power and wealth. Because so many, I mean, we've worked with more than a few people who have a lot of wealth and power and are miserable. There's no pleasure because they went and got themselves the wealth and the power, but they forgot what it was all about.
If it was a pissing contest for who's the most fucked up, I would say the money and power, as a general rule, makes whatever imbalances and traumas that you have worse.
Yeah, the one guy that I worked with that was like super wealthy, who is no longer wealthy anymore. Like we worked together. One of my first big money.
Good job.
It's like, hey, but he was one of the first ones. He paid me a lot, and it still didn't get his attention. He still blamed everybody else. He didn't show up. You can only do so much. You can only, and I'm like I'm there, but eventually it's like, oh, you're not showing up. Boop, boop, boop. Next thing you know, he's burned everybody in town, spent all his money, and he's gone. Like it's gone. But what I learned from him was that because he was fairly newly rich. He had just made like $50 million selling his business, but that money just made him even more of what he was before.
Right.
And it didn't help him.
Right.
It just made him more paranoid and more able to give in to his urges or to isolate himself in whatever world that was his. And he could pay for people to tell him what he wanted to hear. I was telling him, you need to get this together or you're in trouble and you can't treat people like this. And that's not the kind of thing he wanted because he had enough money to not want to hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it really made me realize that, I think I've said before to you or in these things, money, like psychedelics, makes you more of what you already are.
Yeah.
And can also help you change, but it takes some real effort to do so.
And the mechanism by which it happens, if you think about it, makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm sure there's many contributing mechanisms, but one of them is that our traumas create fear-based strategies for handling situations. They create beliefs that are about protecting us from things. And then you add $50 million to the mix. And what happens is those fear-based strategies get linked to the money. And so now you have to risk losing all of it in order to rewire those patterns, and healing the trauma literally becomes an experience of going, I have to let go of
Also
it. Doesn't mean you have to get rid of it.
I've had this with some other recalcitrant wealthy clients who are coming to me because it's not working anymore. What got them here won't get them to the next level. But there's a part of them that says, my fucked upness is what made me the $50 million.
Bingo. Exactly.
And if I change that, then I won't have the ability to make money anymore. And then
yes,
but it's not going to help you. Like, you've got the $50 million in spite of the problem.
Yeah, in spite of it. Yeah. Well, and even sometimes beating themselves actually is how they got there. But it's that quote. This could be my quote. It's not, but it's the quote. What got you here won't get you there. I love it's so simple, it's so clever, and it's so fucking deep.
That book, was it? I forget that guy's name.
No, I didn't even know there was a book.
Coach, some executive coach guy.
Oh, okay. So it's not like he didn't originate the term.
No, but that's what his book's called.
Got it. Yeah.
Dealing with executives. You're like, okay, you're the CEO.
Yeah.
But
you're gonna have to reinvent yourself constantly.
To me, those are the people I like to work with, because it's like a lot going on, a lot of great resources, something just kind of dangling, something needs to be streamlined, or some weight that you're dragging that's keeping you from being even more than you already are.
Yep.
All right, what you got?
All right. So this is a quote that there's two parts to this, because it's not actually this is often attributed to Albert Einstein. I'm sure you've heard it. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. But there was someone else wrote a variation on it, and this is what I wanted to get your take on. Tapping into genius is simple in theory, yet hard in practice. It comes from mastering the one activity you love the most. So what I wanted to get your take on was, what are your feelings on talent versus skill? And like, what is talent? What's its relation to passion? I'm talking about you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. What are your thoughts on this, especially as it concerns NLP's theory that you can learn anything?
Well, technically, whatever was climbing that tree was a fish at one point. Well, I mean, if you can make passion your talent, or being patient with yourself is your skill as you grow, then yes, I'm sure that there are people who are neurologically more adept at some things than others, just by the way their brain's connected, or their size of their hands, or whatever it is. I think that within reason, people can do a lot. The whole NLP, we can model anything to do anything. Yeah. Well, good. Go be the center for the Bulls and let me know how that works. You know what I mean? There is a reality we live in.
Right.
But if you can, within limits, and hopefully be able to push even those limits, it, to me, and especially because the whole even skating or the juggling thing, it's like I'm surrounded by people who are talented.
This is exactly why I wanted to ask you, because you have this exposure.
They're talented as fuck. They also dedicate themselves, and they've been doing it since they were young. And so it's like, okay, but then I come in and I'm like, I want to learn this, and I have to. Well, I may have some talent of physicality or whatever, or hand-eye, something that I've nurtured through other things. I think the real talent is being able to go, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here, and I'm okay with that. And I'm not afraid to suck in front of people who are great, and ask them for help, and model them in whatever ways I think are useful, because a lot of them also beat themselves up about whatever, and that's not how I'm not juggling so I could beat myself up.
Exactly.
And that's not fun for me. In fact, when it's not fun, I stop and then I start again. And one of the biggest questions that was helpful for me in learning was, what would it feel like if this was easier? right? What would I feel like? How would it be if this was easier? And if that sort of attention on your awareness, or like your ability to step back and go, what did I get from that, to break things down? That to me is the talent. I definitely wouldn't say I'm a genius at it, but that it's a
Do you think
skill.
that's a talent or a skill? Is that something you worked on and developed?
So it's both, I would say. Like, I mean, I'm not really sure the difference between a talent and a skill.
I guess I define it as a talent is something that's more inborn and something you're naturally gifted at, and a skill is something you develop. And obviously, most skills have some degree of talent in them, but there are some people that are just really gifted at something right out of the gate to a certain extent, and that would be more talent than skill.
Right. Well, I think that if my talent would be being willing to learn and play, and if I find something I like, to really go, all right, why do I like this?
So that's the key that I think the key distinction, and I'm modeling you right now so everyone can watch. You said kind of offhandedly, you're like talking about all these contributing talents and skills, and then you're like, if I find something that I like. And
right.
So okay, I'm gonna reference two additional quotes here, and then we could draw this to an end. So one quote that I love about this is, I believe it was an interview with Richard Dawkins interviewing Darren Brown. Have you ever seen that one?
No.
It was pretty great. So at one point, I believe this was Dawkins asked him, can anyone learn to do what you do, or are you like special? Are you a freak? He's talking to Darren Brown, one of the greatest mentalists on the planet. Great hypnotist. Yeah. What's that?
I mean, I would,
magician, mentalist, and hypnotist.
Performer.
So he awesome entertainer, performer. So Darren thought about it for a second, and he said, well, it's a little paradoxical. He said, I believe that anybody can learn to do what I do as well as I do it, but most people won't.
Right.
And he said, because the prerequisite, what'd you say?
Well, because it requires 10 years of sitting on your fucking table. Like the juggling stuff. You're like, yeah, anybody could do that. They got arms and legs and fingers, but are you willing to be, it's like, there's no such thing as a magician. There's just people with no social life who are willing to put 500 hours into something that looks like nothing.
What he literally said was, not everybody has the capacity to sit down for 20 to 30,000 hours and master the skills that I've mastered. Anybody can. So I think about that differences. What is the difference between the someone who can and the someone? And so this X factor leads me to another quote from Steve Jobs in an interview with Bill Gates. Was sitting on stage, I remember, but they asked him, like, super cliche question, what's the secret to success? And Steve kind of rolled his eyes, but then he said, I'm going to answer a cliche question with a cliche answer, but it doesn't mean what you think. He said, the answer is, the secret is passion. And he said, but passion is not some mystical, magical force. It's not something outside of you. It's not something that just happens. He says, the reason why passion is important, it doesn't make things easier for you. He said, passion is what is necessary to keep you working to make this thing successful longer than any rational human being would have quit, like far past that point. Yep. He said, that's why passion is actually the secret to success.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. Because again, it's like, you like it, it's fun, you do it. It's, if you really want the goal, you get it. If you don't, if it doesn't bring you pleasure, then it's just going to bring you stress and more anxiety and more like ick and oh God, I should be doing that, and then it's just dirty. And I think that if you find something that's fun, like juggling, I can't tell you how many times I've had to bend over and pick something up. But you either got to go, I'm either into this or I'm not. It's just like learning anything. So I think that's a good place to leave it.
12:50.
People
nice button.
Go watch Darren Brown as much as you can. And
absolutely. And Richard Dawkins.
There you go.
All right. That's a good one.
I will
Peace,
talk
love,
to
and
you
NLP.
the next week. Later. Bye, guys.
Bye.